the cause of most of dependence on digital devices in our current times would be, I would like to divide it into the pre-pandemic and the post-pandemic phase. We all know that before the pandemic also we were using digital devices, children were also using, teenagers, but somehow because of the pandemic everything became online. Learning for children, entertainment for children, even social interactions for children. That was one part about the COVID era. And also I would like to mention in the same context that at the turn of this century, like say around I would say at the beginning of say 2000 or 2001, that was the time when I was doing my studies and post graduations. So you really had to be dependent on one desktop computer, and you had to really be dependent that on the availability of internet. If it was there, I could do my work on the computer. Otherwise, I did not have anything readily at hand, like a laptop. These days, digital devices are easily available. You name it, you have them. Whether it is a laptop, it is a smartphone, it is a personal computer, it is a tablet, easily available, easily accessible, and the internet is everywhere. You don't have to follow the internet is following you everywhere. Wherever you go, you can access it, and not only easily available, it is the prices are so cheap that you can see not only children from well-to-do families, but even any child, even the housemaids, the house help who comes to our place to help us, their children are also sitting with the mobile phones. Even they are also addicted to the screens. So that is one part, easy access to all digital devices. And another thing is during the pandemic and even before that, there was a risk. Some children were not interested in outdoor activities, and especially after the pandemic, during pandemic, nobody could go outside. So there was, due to the boredom also you can say, and the lack of sports and interaction with friends, children have become more and more used to, and even teenagers, adults, everybody, even the personal interaction, social interaction was taking place on the devices only. So that is another factor. And another thing is, I think your topic was very much related to this topic we are discussing today, Rama ma'am. Last topic was like how to engage children. So now so many parents during the pandemic also, and even before that, to those who are working from home, working online, how do they supervise children? It is very difficult. How do they make sure that children are engaged constructively during their working hours? How to engage children? That is another very pertinent issue which we discussed last time. So what to say of small children and teenagers? This little personal anecdote I can add, that in my clinic, we have seen that when we vaccinate the small babies, the parents will show them some little music or some cartoon on the phone, and the child will keep quiet during the injection. So even such small babies also know how to react to the phone or to a gadget or to a device. They feel so happy when they see something on the screen. I'm talking about the very, very young, small children, infants actually. So that is one part. Another thing is peer pressure. Peer pressure is like, okay, now that child is carrying a phone, or that child is having a tablet, or his parents gave him a phone on his birthday, or her parents gave her a tablet on the birthday, so why can't I have one? So as Surbhi ma'am very rightly said, that children are very, very intelligent, and that comparison factor is always there. Okay, that if that child can have it, why not? Why can't I have it? So another thing is peer pressure. We just discussed that if my friend has it, why can't I? If my friend is doing this, then why can't I do this? That is another factor. Not only earlier it used to be a small toy or a small teddy bear or a story book or a comic book, that if he's having it, why can't I have it? Now it is involving gadgets. If they have it, I also want it. So again, it is the decision of the parents as to how to introduce digital devices and digital media in a very planned and disciplined fashion, so that it should not, I mean, we cannot just deny the existence of these devices to our children. They are very much there. So we have to teach them how to use them optimally, not only for entertainment, but also as a learning medium to pick up new things and to pick up the relevant information. That is what I think the children require much more than, like we cannot have a blanket ban on this thing. Though in many schools, all these devices are banned. Even in my children's school, these devices were strictly banned. If it is found, it would be impounded by the school. Any digital device or smartphone or anything, it could not be carried by children to the school. I think, I mean, that's a pretty good move, but then it has to be balanced, because sometimes parents want to be in touch with the children or something, but I guess it can always be worked around. So that is one part of it. And another thing is psychological issues are also there, which can prompt a child to not only use but also overuse the digital devices. It has been seen that almost in some studies that nearly 10 to 15% of the children or the teenagers who are using these digital devices, they become dependent on them. Or should I say, addiction is a very strong word to be used, but they actually become dependent on them. And this is more likely to happen if there are certain psychological issues, like poor family interaction, or the child is having some other issues, like say poor self-esteem or poor self-confidence, due to any reason, or anxiety, or children are not able to express. But the incidence of depression and anxiety in children is also very high these days. So we see many children who are coming with such complaints, and they will not say that I'm feeling depressed or I'm feeling anxious. It manifests in various spheres, like the child's academic performance may go down, his appetite may change drastically. Either he may start eating too much or too less, or he may not engage in the activities which used to interest him earlier. Various such things are the symptoms of anxiety or depression in children. So we have to be very alert. So some such children will become, more and more inward kind of oriented. They will not like to interact with their peers or in a social environment or in a social context. All these things, all these factors also we have to keep in mind, that what are the causes of dependence on these devices. And of course, one most important cause which none of us can forget is that all these devices, they cause certain release of certain chemicals in the brain. And the most important chemical here we are talking about is dopamine. So I'm sure if anybody is interested, they can go and read a book which is called Dopamine Nation. Okay, so which describes how we are, that it is dopamine causes us to feel happy, and that pleasure center in our brain, it really goes off with dopamine. And how is it released? There are so many things which release dopamine, not only digital gadgets. When we go outside and watch a nice sunset, or we watch a nice natural scenery, or we go shopping with our friends, or we interact with our friends, or we watch a nice movie, or even when we pat a little kitten or a puppy, all these release dopamine in our brain, and this is what causes us to feel happy, and it releases all those feel good and feel happy feelings in our brain. So that is the main thing, that dopamine rush which we get. And let me just compare this at this time, that this same dopamine rush is given because of many drugs. We have to just bring in this thing at this moment, that just imagine the same thing which we get by looking at a digital device. And the digital devices, they cause it instantly. There is an instant gratification of the pleasure center which releases dopamine in the brain. So it is an instant thing, instant pleasure which we get. And the same thing which is got by the drugs, street drugs, like say whatever the opiate derivatives, or say cocaine, or all these drugs. And so we can imagine how the children or anybody can become so dependent on these digital devices. They are as addictive as those drugs, and plus they have an added advantage that they are not as it's not criminal to use a phone, but it is criminal to take drugs or to procure drugs. So it is without any consequences. There are no legal consequences. There is no fear, okay, that if I take it, I may be detected, or whatever, fear of any other kind of negative consequences. That is, and it's easily available. It's at the click of a mouse. You don't even have to click a mouse. You just have to press a button, and you can escape to a virtual world where there are no worries, no tensions, no pressures, and you can get that thing at the click of a button. That's why that instant gratification thing is so important with these digital media. Earlier, we used to get that same dopamine rush by playing with our friends, or reading a nice book, a nice story book, or going for a walk, or anything. But now that same thing is available instantly just in the virtual world. So that is the main cause for the digital addiction in children. So,
here maybe I would like to interact with our lovely people over here. You can write in the chat box if you agree to it, because you can write yes if you resonate with what we are talking about. You can write in the chat box.
And how do we, continuing further, how can we identify that our child is going from an internet use to overuse or dependence, or say a device use to dependence? And we should be very aware of this. First thing is that the child may start neglecting his responsibilities. He may not find time actually for his responsibilities because he's so much engaged in his virtual world. He loses track of time actually. He doesn't know how much time he has spent. That is why when we ask them that, don't you think it is becoming too long, they deny it. That is one of the first signs that they deny spending too much time, whereas objectively it can be made out that the child is kind of his interest in other activities like social interactions, or academics, or sports, or hobbies, or reading, or whatever he used to like earlier, that is dropping, that is decreasing. And not only that, he becomes kind of he may become little irritated, or he may become little anxious if his device, if some kind of limit is put, or a time limit is put, that okay, after so much time you should keep the device away. Normally we don't like to act as policemen for the children, so we tell them that okay, after using it this much, this is your this thing allotted, this thing, so use it and then you can keep it away. But then that causes anxiety or irritation in the child, and he becomes he becomes restless. He becomes restless that okay, I want it back. And he may even start using those devices secretively. That may also happen because he doesn't want to be interrupted. And that then we know that okay, this is becoming an issue. And he may even use it, becomes that sleepless. He may neglect his sleeping also, his eating also. You give them food and the food is lying there because the child is so busy playing online games. They are so attractive because these online games, internet gaming, the children can play with anybody in any corner of the world. They can interact with the groups in any corner of the world. They are also playing, he is also playing, and then it gives them a lot of thrill if they win that. So, and it is so addictive. And the child starts neglecting his sleep, his studies, his other activities, his health may suffer. The child may start developing various problems with, say, visual problems. Post-pandemic, we have seen many children who have come who are complaining, the parents are complaining that he's having constant headaches, okay, or inability to see the blackboard. Let me tell you, it's not a one-off case. We see a string of cases. Even now, children are coming with same problems because that is a cumulative damage which has taken place. And why it has taken place? Because in the younger, smaller children, the brain, the eyes, all these are not fully developed or mature. Even their impulse control is poor. So we can sort of control, okay, no, I spent too much time. Now I have to keep this thing away. I have to concentrate on my work. But for children, because the brain is not so much developed and the impulse control part of the brain is also not so much developed, so they are unable to tear themselves away or take themselves away from these devices. And plus their vision is also getting affected. We are seeing in so many children. The parents are saying before this he never had to use any glasses, but after the the COVID, because not only they were always on the the screens, but even now that same habit is also continuing. And let me tell you, even prior to COVID we used to see this. It's not that we don't blame everything on the COVID. Even prior to COVID it was common, but now of course it has reached amazing proportions. So that is one thing. And plus, not only it affects their hearing also, because they will be using the earphones to listen to various things or to watch various things on the phone, and they are continuously using the earphones at a very high volume. So that also damages the hearing. And plus, the brain is also affected because their concentration, attention span becomes less. That has been seen also in many scientific studies and researches, that they are unable to concentrate. The same children who used to have concentration spans of say 10 minutes or 15 minutes, now the concentration span is just 4 to 5 minutes. They cannot concentrate for more than that. They are distracted because they are in the habit of continually getting some new information. And the moving images on the screen are so attractive, they kind of hijack our brain activities. They are very, very powerful, these moving images, because that is why we used to love going to the movies as children. If you remember, that movie was one occasional treat. Watching a movie was like say once a month, and that too some cartoon movie or some religious movie. Now they can watch it anytime because those moving images also stimulate the brain. And we used to get bored sometimes, but then we had our books, and actually it is a good thing to be bored. Okay. And why is it a good thing to be bored? Because it releases your creativity. You can daydream, you can imagine something. Like maybe I think if Isaac Newton had not been bored, maybe he would have never discovered the laws of gravity, because he was just lying under a tree and feeling bored, and he saw all those things fall from the trees, fruits, and then he thought, why is it falling? If he didn't have that free time to imagine why it happened, maybe we would have never discovered so many things, and maybe so many lovely books and creative writings and things would not have been done, or paintings or artists or whatever, music would not have been created. So we really need some free time. Our brain needs some free time. But if it is continuously being stimulated, they stimulate the brain. They stimulate the brain in such a way that the brain becomes saturated. That is why after watching for some time, we feel that, okay, we do feel that, okay, that is enough now. The brain starts becoming saturated, but then it wants more. After a little while, it wants more dopamine, more pleasure, more happiness. Okay, click it again. So much so that it has been seen, some studies in Western countries have seen that teenagers are checking their phones almost 400 times in a day. Because they are not so strict about devices. Children can get them to schools in the Western countries. They are checking their phones. So that is like almost once every 5 minutes. And they are checking social media or whatever, Snapchat, Instagram. And why are they so addictive? Has anybody ever thought, why is this so attractive? Not only because of the dopamine, because they are being run by these corporate giants, Microsoft, Google. There some very, very intelligent people are sitting, and they know how to hook our attention, especially for children. So if you like something, then somebody else likes your post. So they become very excited. Okay, I got 20 likes for my post today. Okay. Or I liked something, and everybody's appreciating that. I put a picture on the Instagram and it is being appreciated by 100 of my friends or 50 of my friends. So I have so many, friends who are liking that. So that is a kind of high they get. It's a, very, very, it's something very, very pertinent. How to hook the children. And why are they trying to hook the children and younger and this thing? Because of their commercial reasons. So they get increased advertisement revenues. As simple as that.
And here I would like to add, Dr. Charu, it's not only for children.
Yes.
We have programs for youth and adults as well in Brighter Minds, and many even adults, even elderly people,
yes,
60, they contact us that I'm not able to remember things, I'm not able to recollect things, I feel overwhelmed nowadays, I'm not able to decide things, I'm anxious, fear of missing out is there, so many concerns there.
Yes.
Because they are in YouTube scrolling all the time. So all these things that you are mentioning,
yes,
I have observed and witnessed myself that it is happening with all of us, even for us.
Exactly. You're very, very right, Surbhi. Earlier, what used to happen, the elders in our home, they used to read to us. Okay, they used to read stories to us. They used to read stories from the, say, Ramayana or Mahabharata to us. Okay. Now, of course, I'm not saying they do. Even currently, the elderly lot are doing that. But lots of them I am seeing. It's not like they're, as you very correctly mentioned, they're busy in their phones also. So everybody is busy. The elders, the parents, so naturally the children are going to emulate them. So, how do we kind of, these are the signs and symptoms that we should be on the lookout for. And sometimes you even get the complaint that the child is sleeping in the class. So what he will do if he is going, that is what is going to happen. He will sleep in the class if he is missing out his sleep at night. If he's not got a rest, not only if he's missing his sleep, if till late at night he's watching that stimulates the brain so much that he's not able to sleep. So we should, kind of how to, pick up these things and how to actually go about, managing. I think we should also look into that.
Yeah, that is important part, because it's basically we are not distracted, we are seeking distraction in the first place. We are waiting for the distraction because of that overstimulation of mind.
Yes.
That is why this boredom plays very important role. Because when mind is overstimulated all the time, it will not be able to think, it will not be able to be creative.
Exactly.
This boredom part, letting them, just be bored, even for us as parents, as working professionals, let us be bored for some time.
Yes, actually, it is a very good thing. I'm very happy if someone is saying my child says I am feeling bored. That means the parent is doing something right, so that the child has some free time to get bored. It's not that his entire schedule is packed with certain things. So, moving on to how we can pick up the digital dependence of children or teenagers or whatever we are dealing with. How to pick it up at an early stage so that we can manage it before it becomes so deep, it becomes ingrained in the children's brain. We should try and pick it up as early as possible. So that it doesn't go to that stage where it becomes difficult to kind of disengage the child from the screens. So, there are many tools which are available for picking up these things. There might be parental reports. There are certain tests or questionnaires which are available, and they are known as the scales. So one of the scales is a self-reporting scale. So digital self-assessment scale and it is reported by the child himself. It contains 25 questions which the child responds on his own. And there is one scale for parents also. So what the parents can report also. there is a questionnaire for parents also. So there are different types of scales which we can share if anybody is interested in them. Okay. So these are objective tools to actually pick it up. So one thing we must understand that it is kind of like the children or teenagers, they feel that you are kind of blaming them or kind of questioning them, like how much are you using or why are you using, or this is your time limit, you are overshooting it, this kind of thing. To prevent that, that is precisely why these questionnaires and these self-assessment tests have been made, and parental assessment tests have been made, because we have to approach it in a very kind of fashion that the child, we don't hurt the child. It has to be in a very diplomatic fashion. Otherwise, they just flatly refuse that, no, okay, I'm not overusing it, I'm not dependent on it. So that is hardly a constructive way to go about it. So we have to go about it with, so to say, kid gloves, approach it very gently, the topic with them, and kind of try and inform them. We should arm them with the information that, okay, these are the ways that you can use it constructively for learning, for information. It is a storehouse of information as well. You can learn so many things. You can learn English languages on that. You can learn other foreign languages. In fact, one of my patients, they mentioned that their child was learning a foreign language on the computer because she had it in her college as a second language. So there are so many constructive ways to use it, how to go about. There are so many word things you can solve, puzzles you can solve, word puzzles. Do you really have to use your brains for that? Improves your language, improves your comprehension, improves your understanding and learning abilities. I mean, there are so many advantages, but as you said, it's a very double-edged sword. So along with that,
balance,
we have
right?
to.
So it has to be very balanced. So
Exactly,
again,
ma'am. Very correct.
the parents needs to be very wise, because as you said, the children has to be handled very, very gently. What
Yes.
kind of habits, routine, and we know the technology, the future world is also going to be full of technology, correct?
Exactly.
Cannot run away from this, but then
No.
how to use it is very important, and how to make them digitally smart, or I must say that, how to educate them that what are the roots and what are the causes and what is going to be the effects. That is something which parents also need to understand and talk to the child, correct, ma'am? Yeah.
Absolutely, Rama ma'am. We have to, like in any other issue with children, it is always a good idea to inform and empower the child himself or herself. We should inform them, we should empower them, and we should have an open line of communication with them. That is so important, because sometimes, I mean, not only that they become addicted to games, sometimes it's a very sad reality of our times. Even online bullying is present. So we should, that is a fact. And many children become so upset or depressed because of that also, because of online bullying, because some children may be bullying them for certain things. So we should have a very open line of communication. It should be approachable. We should avoid being judgmental with children. That is the most important thing. We should avoid being judgmental. Okay, whatever we can help them, we should try and help out as best as can. Because we should remember that they are also developing their personalities. They have not yet fully developed their identities as well as their personalities. So that is why they might sometimes get unknowingly trapped into certain situations. So that is why we should inform them, we should empower them, and we should always be available for them. That is the most important thing. And we should treat them at par. We should avoid looking down at them or kind of lecturing them. That is something to be strictly avoided.
That they don't like it at all.
Exactly.
Ma'am, I wanted to ask you, like as a parent also, like you are also a parent. So how did you manage managed it, because to keeping the children away, because this kind of a tip will definitely help the community.
Yes. Okay. Uh, See, I'm also, my profession is also something which I have to devote a lot of time to the profession. But at the same time, we have to look after the home front and the domestic front also. Okay, so we have to look after the family, the home, all the things. So, whatever it might be, we might be working or we might be anything. But home is also a priority and work is also a priority. So, it's a balancing act. So luckily, my what we decided as parents, and I was fortunate that my husband also agreed with it, that we avoided, giving them devices at an early age. So my husband also decided that we will give them the phones or their personal computers only after they have cleared their 12th standard, not before that. And only after 12th standard, my son was also given a phone and a computer, because that was unavoidable at that time. Because in college, you do need it, you need to do your work. But before that, definitely it was avoidable. And plus, we said that, okay, you can use it. You can use this. This was a desktop was there. So we allowed them, certain time on that. And of course, it's not that we were like, we had some draconian or kind of principles that no, you cannot touch it, nothing like that. So sometimes my daughter will watch something she likes, but then it has to be under monitoring and under supervision.
Content needs to be monitored. So what they are watching needs to be monitored.
Exactly. Very, very important. Very extremely important.
So I would re-emphasize with all our listeners that it's not that it's very bad, but it has to be used very wisely. How to use it for learning, how to strike that balance so that our children go for active screen time. Through that they learn, not only passive screen time in which they are just engaging.
Yes.
Some pleasure seeking things. So Rama ma'am and Dr. Charu Malik, I have invited Gunjan Kanoje over here, and she has joined Brighter Minds program some 5 or 6 years ago. And Gunjan, I would request you to please put your video on. And now she is doing her psychology.
Okay, good.
So Gunjan, request you to please put your video on, because now from psychology background she can share things with us.
Yeah, that's very important, because children are the ones who should be given a voice, right? When we are talking about this, they are the ones end users, so they need to be given a voice to express. Yeah.
So Gunjan, are you there? Okay. So I guess I'll search Gunjan and then request her. I would also request Dr. Charu, because she is also a Brighter Minds parent. Her children did Brighter Minds. I guess how many years ago? Some 7-8 years ago?
Yes.
So maybe you can also share a few insights about Brighter Minds, whatever your feeling has been, whatever you...
Definitely. It was a very positive experience, and in fact a very enlightening experience for me, not only for my daughter, because initially she was hesitant to join. I almost kind of pushed her into it because her best friend was also joining. So I said, okay, I gave her that carrot that your best friend is joining. So then, okay, she agreed. But then it helped her so much in concentration, in all round, clarity of thinking, decision making, and of course, last but not the least, academics. Her performance, academic performance also improved, and also the interaction, as you said, not only the IQ, the EQ also, it leads to improvement in that also, very certain.
Thank you, Dr. Charu. So Gunjan has joined. Gunjan, please unmute yourself. And I have already shared that you have completed your Brighter Minds almost 5 to 6 years ago, and now you are into psychology field. So please share whatever you want to share. because it's important to listen to our teens and youth.
Yeah, so sorry for the delay. Actually, I wasn't able to unmute or turn off my video. Anyway, so I'll introduce myself. I'm Gunjan and I'm currently studying psychology at a bachelor's level. So I had completed Brighter Minds quite a long time ago, and back then I did not overtly understand the impact. Of course, I did not have like a euphoria moment that, oh my God, I've changed like that. But then I realized that there were these certain, I would say, abstract felt changes in me that I realized that they weren't visible back then, but then now when I've started to analyze, when I've started to understand human behavior, when I'm studying it academically, I realized that there were a lot of, after quite a lot of speculation and contemplation, I realized there were a lot of changes that I realized that I had in my behavior, in my daily functioning, in my daily activities compared to other teenagers that I used to be friends with initially. There was the first insight that I was able to draw from my experience was that there was this clarity of thoughts that came in. It really kind of impacted my personal decisions. So, for instance, I was actually preparing for engineering in the beginning. Then slowly I realized with more and more clarity of thoughts and more exploring the field and understanding that this is something that I would enjoy doing, not enjoy exactly, but that I could do on a daily basis, but I wouldn't be passionate about. Then I explored a bit further, did some research, reached out to people. Then I realized psychology is my field, it's my thing. So I decided to join this field, and I still do not regret my decision. I really love the field, and I hope to build up a career on it. So I was sort of able to divert my stream of thoughts to a particular direction, and now with more academic training and understanding lifespan development and the developmental milestones that children have as growing up, I realized that the phase from pre-teens to young adults is quite a transition, because in that stage we are very vulnerable, and there's this chaos in our mind, constant chaos about what would my friends would be like. And then there is social media, which has permanently altered social dynamics between friends, and there's peer pressure, and like ma'am mentioned, there's bullying, there's cyberbullying, and there is so many things online, and there is it has kind of become like a status symbol of posting on social media. So then how do we sort of understand that how to divert this energy towards the positive and the negative, towards the positive side, whereas it may divert to negative. Now that I'm also studying cognitive psychology, aspects of cognitive psychology, I realized that after processing information through the procedure of cognition, we have this ability to make manipulations in the environment, in the information that we are processing. So we have a very high capability of doing that, of making decisions. So these decisions will really truly impact our lives when we grow up, when we become to be adults, which is why I understand that there has to be this way to train our cognitive health, to train our process of cognition, to sort of accentuate or enhance that process, and which is something I feel I have achieved through this course of Brighter Minds. And this improvement of cognitive health helps us, it particularly helped me direct my energy into the positive stream of thoughts and processing the information that I'm getting, processing different things positively, perceiving them positively, and making positive decisions. So overall, it has just really impacted my behavior, my overall functioning, and improved my quality of life. And I did not understand it then, but after 5-6 years, now that I'm growing up, I when I do compare myself to my peers, I realize that my way of understanding information, understanding things has become different. My decisions are different. They're more positive in their nature. So I'm very grateful for this opportunity, and I really enjoyed sharing my experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Gunjan. Thank you so much. So, Dr. Sharu, would you like to share a few more things? Or should we open the forum for question and answer? And by the time you are deciding, I'm sharing our WhatsApp link of, this is a group where all of us keep, connecting, and we are connected through this group. If you want, you can join this group to stay connected. We also have a YouTube channel where mostly every day we are putting something or the other. This particular webinar will also be available there. Its recording would be available there. So you can go through it and then share with others as well. So I have shared the WhatsApp group link. If you want, please join it so that we stay connected on different other topics. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, because we want to give this benefit to many others, I would request you to please follow our LinkedIn as well. I am sharing our LinkedIn, this follow link as well. Please follow this so that we take this ahead with many other people. Dr. Sharu, so do you want to share a few more tips for managing this, or should we open the forum for parents?
Just a very quick thought on how to manage. See, we can lecture, do enormous amount of lecturing, but the basic thing is we children just copy what they see us doing. I think that is the most important thing. They just copy us. We are their role models. So we have to set an example with our kind of how we use these devices to our advantage, and teach the same to our children. We have to set that example with our behavior with these digital media and digital devices. And plus, there are any number of things that we can discuss, that how to limit screen time, and limit the screen time to say half hour or 1 hour. We can do all this, but the most important thing is that we ourselves should be able to set that example which the child can follow. That is the most important thing, I think, here.
And every child is not addicted. Just observe.
Yes.
You are observing something, some symptoms that we shared.
Exactly.
And you need to be very worried about, because otherwise you just need to see what content they are going for. Are they learning? Just be mindful of what they are doing.
As we say, it's a watchful neglect. We have to keep a watch, and as long as it's within controls or within limits, it's fine. We just have to monitor it and teach the child, empower the child how to do it on his own, rather than we playing a policeman or a policewoman. That is the best way it works. If we give that power to the child after educating him and informing him suitably. I think we can open for questions, because the time is
time is already very short.
Yes.
So Catherine Johnson ji is here, and she is asking conversations with children. Catherine, we would appreciate if you can just unmute yourself and put your video on. And she has continuously with us, and she is very insightful parent. For few webinars we have been interacting with her. She says, conversations with children alone can be challenging to actively and effectively manage screen time. There has to be creative ways to steer them away from device addiction, right?
Exactly. We have to find something. Even before devices, we were doing something to keep ourselves busy. Devices have come just now for the last some years, say 10 years or 15 years. Prior to that, what were we doing? We had nothing, no devices. So what were we doing? We were engaging ourselves somehow, I'm sure. So that, I think Man
Yeah.
has covered very beautifully in the last seminar, actually. If we just run through that thing, it offers so many ideas how to
How to
engage.
engage.
Yes,
So,
yes,
this webinar by Rama ma'am is there on the YouTube. Please go through it. How to
yes.
engage and inspire children. Catherine further says, especially with the children at primary level of education, story sharing, picture depicting, the ills of overexposure to screen time should be looked into. Role playing can also play a significant role in minimizing the problem. That's right, Catherine. So all these things we agree, and you can decide to watch that webinar as well, engage and inspire.
Yes.
So
Thank you.
Catherine, for sharing.
I am unable to start my video based on where I am,
1 minute.
but I must say how wonderful a program this is, and how informed our speakers have been. And yes, this is something that we have to really make creative effort in getting to where we want.
Yeah.
Where we want to be. And yes, we have the answers, because as Doc says, that we used to do it before, and it simply means that we have to get back there. And as she rightly says, we have to demonstrate this as parents, caregivers, teachers. We have to start spending more time. So since we are the one looking for the change and trying to advocate change, it has to start with us, because many of us are also addicted to screen time. And so we have to drop those gadgets, and we have to go outdoors, invite them, because it's a nature still of our children to play, and they love to play. So we have to get them back there and have a competition with playing outside, being outdoors, and having them getting that feel good, the dopamine injection by actually being out there. And I'm telling you, I really strongly feel that they will get there. But if we can really get to our early childhood education, because with our teenagers, the habit is really crystallized, as it were, and so it's much more flexible to get to our younger children. So I'm really happy for the discourse today, and just to say that there is hope, but it has to begin with us as the caregivers. We have to go back there. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's right. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Please stay connected. Let's all create a community of like-minded people, and keep connecting, because all of us are on a journey of parenting, on a journey of life, where many a times we need support of like-minded people. We want to talk to people, so it's nice to stay connected with you. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you.